After 8 people died in a nursing home near Miami, the state is taking extra precautions to protect its vulnerable elderly residents. Let's bring in Florida Congressman now, Francis Rooney, whose district saw some of the worst damage. Thank you for joining us, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
I first want to get an update on that situation from you. Obviously, there's a little bit of finger pointing right now. In fact, a representative from the nursing home had said, listen, I tried to get in touch with the governor, so people are sort of starting to panic just because of the sheer sadness of the situation, obviously the optics. What is your take on it now that we're the cloud is sort of lifting?
Well, now we're moving into the remediation phase, the cleanup, the making sure that the sewer system continues to work, which takes a lot of gas until power gets back on, getting power. FP&L has assured everyone that most everyone will have power by the end of the week. Power's coming on every hour. More people are getting it. And once you get power, then you can stabilize the sewer system and the water system and the air conditioning of people's houses.
When we look at, for example, the nursing home situation, is there anything that could have been done differently by the state? Do you feel like everything, all emergency crews came together, that there was leadership from the top coming from the governor? Is there anything that you would have done a little differently?
I don't know that what we could have done differently. We started working with FEMA when the storm headed west. FEMA deployed supplies, water, and things all through the areas that were bound to be affected, so they'd be ready to use them when the storm passed. Maybe in hindsight we could have had more fuel tanks ready for gasoline, expecting the huge load of generators. But I haven't heard of any instance of poor cooperation. In fact, just the opposite. I've heard a lot of people and seen a lot of stories of our communities coming together and the good side of humanity coming out.
You were one of the first people on the ground immediately after the storm, if I'm not mistaken. You went really just hours after the storm had touched down in your district, which is in South Florida, the Naples area, and up into parts of Fort Myers. What did you see when you were just landing?
Well, the first disheartening thing I saw was as we were landing into RSW, you land to the southwest. We flew over Lehigh Acres, which is one of the more impoverished, disadvantaged areas of Lee County, and there was a lot of flooding. A lot of houses where you could see the house, but there was water all around it. And Lehigh Acres has had a real tough go. I would say Lehigh Acres and Bonita, Immokalee and Marco are the 4 hardest hit.
There's still millions of people without power. There's still a really long road ahead. Do folks know what they're up against? I mean, we're talking months, years of recovery simply because the sheer amount of destruction.
There's a lot of destruction, and it's not just where we are. You know, the Keys were flattened. And it's important for everybody to realize the magnitude of the challenge. FP&L has like 4.5 million customers, and they've got power to almost all but about 1 million now. They've had over 20,000 people working to do it. So, we had a little problem with the neighborhood health clinic in Naples. Serves 9,000 disadvantaged, they call them the working poor. And the people that run it are good friends of ours. And the lady called my wife, and she called me just as the president was landing and said, we got this crisis here because the FP&L thinks they have power, but they don't. So I called the CEO, and he jumped right on it, and they had power within hours, and they saved millions of dollars of medicines.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I understand you're probably getting some folks at home who are feeling pretty disheartened. Perhaps they don't have flood insurance and they have a long road ahead. What are you telling them?
We're telling them that we're all in this together. We'll work together, and it will make our community stronger. We will solve this, and we'll be better for it. But we can't rush everything. We have to work through the power, work through the bugs are going to be the next problem,
Yep.
Mosquitoes.
I know it was really warm down there this weekend, too, so people were dealing with no power, some high temperatures, a lot of humidity. Sir, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it.